Hi, everybody. My name is Jeanie Colclough, and welcome back to Passport to Profit. I am the host of this podcast. I am a Condé Nast top travel specialist. I've been in the travel industry since 2017, and my job here is to help you grow your travel business, right? So I know there are a lot of podcasts out there geared towards travel agents, travel advisors, whatnot. And I think the reason why this one is a little bit different is I would like to have more intimate conversations with you instead of screaming and yelling at you. That's why props to people who make those kinds of podcasts, but I generally don't raise my voice a whole lot, maybe to my kids, but definitely not to my clients and stuff, and definitely not to my peers, right? So hopefully you understand our style here. And if our style jives with you, then please consider joining our host agency. All the information is down below. You can always message us and join our Facebook group. So in today's episode, I want to talk about some lessons or some things that I wish I knew before starting a travel agency. Okay. So if it was me, what would I tell myself 8 years ago? Right? So the first thing I would tell myself 8 years ago is if you're looking to start a travel agency and you're questioning yourself and you think you don't know what you're going to do or how you're going to do it, I would say just do it. Don't overthink it. Just do it. So what do I mean by that? What are some steps that you need to have in place before you start? You need to figure out whether you or not you want to join a host agency. That's for sure. You need a business license. Anyone who tells you that you don't need a business license, they're not giving you solid business advice, right? You want to have your own errors and omission insurance. And the reason why I say that is that your host may have their own E&O policy, but that policy is shared with all the other agents under their plan. So that means you will have a very high deductible and it may not cover you depending upon if it's ever used. Okay, so you should get your own E&O policy. The cost is very minimal compared to all the other costs you will have running your own business, folks. It's just to cover your own butt. CYA. The other thing is if your state requires it, get a seller of travel. Certain states will require it if you plan on processing planning fees. So if you plan on getting planning fees, you need to know your own state. And there are 4 states that have seller travel requirements. California is one. I reside in California. I have my own seller travel, right? And all the agents that work under us are covered under that SOT. But if you want to break out independently, then you can have your own SOT, seller travel. Florida requires it. Washington State and Hawaii, right? So Hawaii is a little bit tricky. You actually have to reside there or get somebody else to open the account for you. So Hawaii is the most tricky one. And then for those listeners who are in Canada, Canada has a different registration called TICO. So you need to figure out how to get that TICO. If you're looking for attorneys to help you, let me know. I do actually have some attorney contacts. If you have the cash and you don't want to deal with the headache of creating your own seller of travel accounts with any of these states, let us know. So that aside, let's say you start your business, you have all the legitimate paperwork, right? You're in business. So what's the first lesson that I would say? Fees. Implement fees right away. Have it in your terms and conditions, right? That the planning fees are non-refundable. And the other fees that most agents don't ever consider are cancellation fees. Yes, if your client cancels a cruise or a tour with Globus or whatnot, those providers will have their own cancellation fees. But what about you? How do you get compensated if a traveler cancels their trip? Most likely you won't, right? So you need to figure out how to, sustain an income if someone decides to cancel a trip. Now, if they have travel insurance, right, then they can get some of those fees covered. But if they don't, then you need to make sure that it's in writing that you will collect cancellation fees if canceled for whatever reason beyond how many ever days. And that's something to work with a travel attorney. Once again, if you need a travel attorney referral, let me know. I can refer you some travel attorneys. So Lesson one is fees. Fees act as a filter. You do not want people to be, picking at your brain, wasting your time. So I think unless they are repeat clients and you feel like, oh, I'm going to waive my fee for them. Okay, that's you. It's your business. But if they are brand new to you, they found you online, they're a lead, they found you on, I don't know, Google, Yelp, whatnot, Virtuoso's website, Travel Leaders lead gen website, implement the planning fee, right? Whether it be 150, 250, 500, 1500. I know some agents that charge $5,000 for a destination wedding planning fee. So figure out what amount makes you comfortable, right, to charge clients, because you don't want them wasting their time or your time. Number two, figure out if you're going to niche down, right? Yes, as a solopreneur, you cannot serve everyone and you will go crazy. And I've mentioned that in previous episodes. So you need to figure out where or who do you want to serve. So if you listen to the previous episode, we talked about the 4-quadrant, right? Which people or which niche will be the most profitable for you that you actually enjoy serving. So once you figure that out, niche down, okay? My niches are luxury travel, corporate incentives. Those are my niches, right? Within luxury travel, obviously, I like food and wine. If you look at me, you're like, yes, she loves food and wine, if you know me. Family, because I've been traveling with my kids forever. So luxury family travel. And what we call soft adventure. So soft adventure is like cycling, hiking, that kind of stuff. It's not the hardcore bungee jumping, what's that, like diving, those kinds of vacations. Those are actually, if you service those kinds of people, that's great. But you have to figure out which insurance providers will cover those types of trips. Just FYI, okay, knowing that. So once you niche down, people know who to refer to you, all right? So I know that if a client does a certain kind of trip and I don't service that I'll refer them out to somebody else. And if you join our host agency, perhaps I can refer them to you, right? Lesson number 3, relationships power rates or trump rates. So the relationship that you build with your clients, that you build with your providers or suppliers or partners, those go a lot further than the dollar amount. At the end of the day, people aren't going to remember if they spent $500 on a hotel or $450 per night on a hotel, or at least I don't, right? I think about it in the planning stages, but once I'm there, enjoying the hotel, enjoying the services, those dollar amounts kind of seem to fade, right? It's like a couple of like coffee trips to Starbucks that I've saved, right? So I would say spend less time worrying about the dollar amount and the commissions and think more about the relationship that you're building with your clients, right? And your providers. The next lesson is that cash flow is the real boss, right? So think about how are you going to, if you don't have a P&L, profit and loss statement, you need to work on that. Figure out how much income are you taking in or how much revenue. But after the revenue, think about all the expenses that you have, right? So it might be an office if you're renting an office. It might be your social media, your website, your commission tracker, all that kind of stuff, right? Your host agency fee. So figure how much you're actually taking home, and that's profit, right? After all the events that you attend, after the gifts that you give to your clients, revenue is what we call the vanity number. Profit is what you really care about. How much do you take home? Let's say you sell $1 million in travel. Do you actually keep 100,000 as profit, or is it closer to 50, 60? Think about that, right? So this is not a passion project for middle schoolers, right? This is for you to grow your business. Next one is content. I think when I first started about 8 years ago, I asked people, hey, are you going to have a website? Are you going to build this? Or how much are you going to sell? And a lot of them said, no, I just rely on walk-ins and referrals. And I said, that's great, but I can't rely on that all the time. So I think if you want to create a name for yourself, an authority figure, and we'll talk about that in future episodes of how to be an authority figure in your particular category of travel, you need to have a website. You need to have social media. I'm sorry, right? How much time you devote to it, that's up to you. You can farm it out. You can hire other people to edit your content, to create content, to film you. If you have budget, great. But if you're starting small, I would at least claim all those profiles first before you even hammer down a business name. And then figure out, how often am I going to post? There's a bunch of social media schedulers out there that you don't have to post at each one individually. However, you do have to know how to post for each type of social media. Okay, I'm going to take a little interjection here. If you're on Facebook, Facebook is for kind of like the older gen, right? Mostly Gen X and older. I'm assuming most people that are, even maybe some millennials, but people who are Gen Z, Gen Alpha are not hanging out on Facebook, right? So it's people who are in their 40s and above, or they're hanging out on their Facebook. Instagram, it's most ages. TikTok tends to skew a little younger. But for me, where do I hang out the most? Really, I hang out more on Instagram, TikTok, to be quite honest. Facebook, I find it kind of boring. It's a little static. Yeah, sometimes I see updates from my friends. But in terms of businesses, there's just so many ads on Facebook that I just don't even look at it, right? I only have Facebook really because it's a business account and I need to update it for my business. Facebook is great for running ads. They're still relatively inexpensive to run ads. And figure out how you want to target your audience, right? Instagram is great for inspiration. People are, I'm going to say the word Google, but they're not really Googling. They're searching Instagram, especially stories or posts, to see places to visit. I look at Instagram when I'm looking for outfits to wear currently in some place because I want to know what the weather's really like and what are people wearing. Is it really hot and humid there? That's what I use Instagram for, really. I'm not using it to look at venues and stuff because I already do that for my work, right? TikTok is, they're all forms of brain rot, but TikTok sometimes you'll find creators on there. And so some of these creators will give you some ideas as to how to sell your business, right? And these creators don't necessarily need to be in the travel space. Follow the creators that you find entertaining and see if you can kind of copy their formula. What do they do? What is their hook? How do they sell their product, service, or business, right? So you need to figure out which platform you want to be on. And then LinkedIn is a different platform altogether, right? It's more of a business platform. So if you do a lot of B2B business to business, it's a good platform to be on, I think, right? B2C, business to consumer business, so that you're dealing with the consumer directly. I think that's better served on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, right? But B2B, probably LinkedIn is still the best, right? And then think about this next one, community. You do need to find a community. We mention this all this time. You cannot do this on your own as a business owner. So figure out who your community is, whether that be family, friends, other travel agents, advisors, your host agency, whoever, who can be there to support you as a business owner, right? You need to have ideas, bounce off ideas with one another. And then systems. If you don't have your systems in place, you need a CRM, right? Travel itinerary manager, commissions tracker, all that kind of stuff, right? Profit and loss sheet, calendar. If it doesn't exist on my Google Calendar, I can't tell you how many times I see this all the time. If it's on my Google Calendar, it doesn't exist. So I would say if I could start again, figure out what your why is, what's your purpose before you even have your branding, your website done. Build your relationships before building graphics, right? Figure out your cash flow before learning how to master Canva. You can always hire someone to do Canva. Choose a niche so you know what kind of leads you are going to go after, and set boundaries so you don't burn out. So hopefully you can, with my experience that I've had and my stress that I've had, you've learned a few lessons before you embark on this new journey. And if you are interested in learning more about how to become an agent under our host agency, please contact us. Our information is below. And we're always looking for energized people who want to pivot into the travel industry. And maybe if you need a little bit extra hand holding, let us know. Okay. So once again, my name is Jeanie Colclough. I'm the owner of Riveting Trips. We are Condé Nast top travel specialist, recognized agency, and this is Passport to Profit. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends and like us and send us comments. Send us lots of love. Ciao.